Hecato of Rhodes lived around 100 BCE. He studied under Panetius, the man who carried Stoicism into Rome. None of Hecato's books survived. We know his name only because Seneca, 2 centuries later, wrote it down in letter 5 with one piercing line. In Latin, Desines timere, si sperare desirus. Cease to hope, and you will cease to fear. Now here is what nobody tells you about that line. Hecato was not preaching pessimism. He was describing a mechanism. Hope and fear are not opposites. They are the same chain, with 2 different ends. Both stare at something that has not happened yet. Both hand the steering wheel to the future. Both let another person, your boss, your coworker, your in-law, decide your peace. Every workplace manipulation, without exception, runs on one of those 2 ropes. The flatterer activates your hope to be admired. The withholding manager activates your fear of being passed over. The guilt tripper activates your fear of being seen as cold. The colleague who gossips about a promotion activates hope. The one who goes silent activates fear. Cut hope, cut fear, there is nothing left in their hand to pull. We will get to the exact 3-word practice Hecato gives for this in a moment, and that is where it gets counterintuitive, because the move is not what you would expect. If this is landing, save this video. The next time someone at work runs this on you, and they will, probably this week, you will want to come back to this. The Stoics had a word for the person on the other end of the rope. They called him a slave, no matter his job title. Because the master is not the one giving the orders. The master is the one holding what you want. Seneca did not preserve Hecato as a scholar of dead philosophy. He was Nero's advisor, inside the most manipulative court in Roman history. Every dinner carried a knife under the table. Every promotion was a setup. Seneca needed Hecato's line to survive the day. Marcus Aurelius needed it too. In Meditations 1.16, he writes a long, almost loving description of his stepfather Antoninus Pius. Buried in the praise is a single observation that explains why Antoninus ran the Roman Empire for 23 years without being toppled by his own court. Marcus says, he could not be flattered. Think about what that means in a palace full of senators trained from boyhood to flatter. Antoninus had cut the rope. He did not want anything the flatterers could offer, not louder applause, not a grander title, not extra love. There was nothing to grip. So they stopped trying. Marcus writes elsewhere, in Meditations 8.47, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the Stoic countermove in one sentence. Not seeing through the manipulator. Not confronting them. Becoming someone they cannot find a handle on. This is why Hecato's line is workplace gold. The Stoics were not naive about power. They knew you cannot always leave the job. You cannot always fire the boss. But you can revoke your estimate of what they hold over you. And once you do, the game ends, usually quietly, often without the other person even understanding why. But the practical version, what you actually do at 9 in the morning, in your real office, is more direct than philosophy sounds. And most people get the first step completely wrong. Here is the 3-word practice. Audit the hook. Before reacting to anything at work that feels emotionally loaded, flattery, guilt, a vague promise, a sudden coldness, pause for one breath and ask one question. What hope or fear is this person reaching for in me right now? 3 examples. A coworker showers you with compliments, then asks you to cover their project. The hook is your hope of being seen as competent and generous. The audit, do I actually need this person to think of me that way? Almost always, the answer is no. The hope dissolves. The request becomes ordinary. You decide on the merits. A manager hints. At a promotion, vaguely, 4 months. Never writes anything down. The hook is hope. The audit, am I making decisions today, late nights, unpaid weekends, based on a promotion that has not been promised in writing. Once you see the hook, you cannot unsee it. A colleague gives you the silent treatment after you set a small boundary. The hook is fear of being disliked. The audit, is the cost of their disapproval actually higher than the cost of doing their work for them again? Stated plainly, the answer is almost always no. The practice for this week. Keep a single note on your phone. Every time work makes your chest tight, write one sentence. They are reaching for my hope of blank, or, they are reaching for my fear of blank. That is the whole exercise. By Friday you will see the same 3 or 4 hooks repeating. They are predictable. Once you can name them out loud, the rope goes slack in your hand. Drop in the comments which hook your workplace uses on you most. The flatterer. The vague promiser. Or the silent treatment. Read what other people write, you will recognize patterns you have lived through and never had words for. CTA, if you want more of this, the actual Stoic moves for the situations nobody trains you for at work, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Daily Stoic wisdom from Marcus, Seneca, and Epictetus. But that is only half the story. The next part is where most people get this completely wrong. Outro, Hecato's point was never to make you cold or detached. It was to make you free. The person who needs nothing from the room cannot be moved by the room. Tomorrow, before your first meeting, sit for 30 seconds and name one thing you have been hoping for at work. Then ask whether you have handed someone power over you by hoping for it. That is the entire practice. If this hit, my breakdown of what Epictetus taught about handling a boss who plays favorites will make even more sense now. That is where Hecato's audit turns into something closer to a weapon. Watch that one next. Cease to hope. Cease to fear. Walk into the office tomorrow with both hands empty. The Stoic philosopher Hecato of Rhodes left us almost nothing, except a single line preserved by Seneca that cuts the invisible thread every workplace manipulator pulls. In this video we unpack Hecato's mechanism of hope and fear, why Marcus Aurelius praised his stepfather Antoninus Pius for being unflatterable, and the exact 3-word practice you can run tomorrow morning to disarm the flatterer, the vague promise boss, and the silent treatment colleague. This is ancient Stoic wisdom applied to the meeting room, the slack thread, and the performance review, not abstract philosophy, but a workable countermove drawn from Letter 5 and Meditations 1.16 and 8.47. If you have ever walked away from a conversation at work feeling tight in the chest and unsure why, this video names what just happened and gives you the Stoic response. Timestamps: midnight. The hook every manipulator pulls 0:45 Hecato of Rhodes and the line Seneca saved 3 o'clock. How Antoninus Pius made flattery useless. 6 o'clock. The 3-word practice. Audit the hook. 9 o'clock. Walk in tomorrow with both hands empty. Subscribe for daily Stoic wisdom from Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus.